In an earlier video, I talked about Pterosaur or pterodactyl sightings in North Carolina. And I said in that video that I would cover some more sightings, but from different regions throughout the world. One that I really wanted to cover happened in Alaska. One day a pilot was flying his Cessna when he saw a huge bird. At first he thought that it was another plane in the distance, but as he got closer he realized that this was not a plane but a bird, and he just couldn't believe how big it was. He told a journalist that you would not want your kids playing outside while this thing was flying overhead. He estimated that this bird's wingspan must have been at least 15 feet, which was about the size of his own plane. Now it wasn't just him. All his passengers also saw this bird, a bulldoze operator, and several people in a remote town. And what's more interesting about this mass sighting is that most of these eyewitnesses are native Alaskans and they had never seen anything like it before. And some of them believed that it was an actual living breathing pterosaur or maybe the legendary Thunderbird. Now this sighting did get a lot of press at the time, and a biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service in Anchorage said that he received quite a few reports of this enormous bird, and the estimated wingspan was 15 feet. And as far as we know, there is no bird alive today that has a 15-foot wingspan. So if these eyewitnesses were not exaggerating and their estimations were accurate, well, what the heck was this bird? Could it have really been a pterosaur or maybe the legendary Thunderbird? Another sighting comes from the website Phantoms and Monsters. Phantoms and Monsters is a great paranormal website that does an awesome job at posting first-hand accounts. One day a man from North Pole, a fairly small and remote city in Alaska, was driving to work in the early morning hours when he saw very briefly what he truly believes to be a pterosaur just flying above the tree line. He told Phantoms and Monsters that he only saw it for a couple of seconds, but he knows what he saw, and he was shocked not only by the size of this flying creature, but by the power behind the muscles in its wings. And ever since this life-changing sighting, he has been a true believer that pterosaurs still exist to this very day. And over the centuries, there have been other documented sightings just like this one in Alaska. And Alaska is one of those regions where it is possible, although unlikely, that something as big as a pterosaur could still be hiding from the modern world. One of the most famous locations where it's believed that pterosaurs still exist is Papua New Guinea. And the natives, they call it the Ropin. But many think, according to all these eyewitness accounts, is that these might not be the pterosaurs of old. In most of these sightings, the wingspan is a lot smaller, but the features are very similar to that of a pterosaur or a pterodactyl, and is also said to glow in the dark. Now, because there are so many sightings in this region, I'm going to cover the Ropin in a future video, because today I want to talk about other remote locations throughout the world where it's believed that pterosaurs still exist. And one of those locations is the Amazon. In 1947, a British traveler, James Harrison, along with other adventurers, were going down a river in the Amazon when they saw not one, but 5 huge winged creatures flying very low just over their heads. And these men were scared because these birds were just so big. And James and his friends were able to get a very good look at them, and they stated that these creatures had leathery skin, flattened heads, long necks, and their wingspan was about 12 to 15 feet long. And this very famous sighting sounds exactly like what people are seeing right now in North Carolina, which I did cover in a previous video. Now James and these other British explorers had nothing to gain by making up stories, so many believed at that time that there was a population of pterosaurs in South America. And over the years there have been other sightings, but they are extremely rare. Another sighting that I wanted to cover happened in England, in a location known as the Devil's Punch Bowl. A man stated that he saw a very large gray-colored flying creature that looked like a pterodactyl, and this eyewitness is not the only one. Mysterious Universe's Nick Redfern has wrote a couple of articles about sightings of pterosaur-like creatures within the Devil's Punch Bowl, and the United Kingdom would be the last place where we would think a pterosaur or an unknown bird that resembles a pterosaur could still hide from the modern world. Now, with all these sightings in all these different regions throughout the world, there is still no conclusive evidence that pterosaurs still exist. But these eyewitnesses swear that they saw one, making this phenomenon start to get a lot of attention throughout the world. And if one day in the future we find out that they do in fact still exist, just as these eyewitnesses have said, just imagine what else could be hiding from us. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned.